Good evening. Thank you for joining us this evening for a special celebration, and thank you to all the Vaccine for All Corps staff and the people that make up our city workforce and private partnerships that helped make the Vaccine for All Corps a resounding success. My name is Dustin Reidner. I am the Staffing Branch Chief for the Vaccine Command Center, which provided oversight and guidance to the many different programs that were all working to minimize the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, including the Vaccine for All Corps. Prior to the Vaccine for All Corps, I too was working with our local hospitals responding to the pandemic, and I will be tonight's host. During my lifetime, I have never seen such humility. The last 15 months are unparalleled as you helped guide the city of New York back from the brink, generate hope, and exemplify the true meaning of being a New Yorker. For that, you should be extremely proud of yourself and those you worked alongside. And it is for that we would like to take this time this evening to thank you for your service and highlight your successes. Sometimes it's hard to quantify the impact that a program, team, or individual brings when facing the type of adversity that was brought by the COVID-19 pandemic. While we've tried to do that for you this evening, I want to make sure that you all know the intangibles that you brought with you into the Vaccine for All Corps are not lost, forgotten, or overlooked. You made a difference in the lives of millions of New Yorkers. One day, 1 hour, and one conversation at a time. There have been many stories shared with us from your coworkers, your managers, and others that were involved in the Vaccine for All Corps and the programs that it provided. Tonight, we want to highlight some of those as well. I, for one, am excited to share your triumphs with the rest of the Vaccine for All Corps teams and hope that all of you enjoy this presentation as well. We will be recording this webinar and hope to put it online so that we can share your excellence with a wider audience. Our program will last no longer than 1 hour, and we're going to start with some messages from the city's leadership. These speakers include Deputy Mayor Ann Williams-Easom, New York City Emergency Management Commissioner Zach Iscol, and of course, our Mayor, Eric Adams. After their remarks, we'll move into the heart of the program. And to do that, we'll follow the history of the Vaccine for All Corps program, highlight the statistics of your impact, and share some of the stories and photos. And now, a message from Mayor Adams.
I am Mayor Eric Adams, and today I want to salute the Vaccine for All Corps. Thanks to you, our city has been able to get millions of New Yorkers vaccinated and combat the greatest public health crisis we have ever faced. This has been more than a logistical challenge to distribute vaccines. It is a community effort to make sure people are informed and protected. Each and every one of you stepped up to help us to educate our communities, gain their trust, and ultimately get those shots in arms. Today, more than 17.8 million vaccine doses have been administered in New York City. Whether you worked at a vaccination site, joined a community outreach and canvassing team, became a vaccine educator, or went on to become a community health worker, I want to thank you for your service and dedication. It was an all hands on deck effort. And you answered the call to welcome your neighbors to dozens of sites in every borough. You joined thousands of city workers who were likewise working tirelessly to help New Yorkers on the ground and behind the scenes, ensuring this Herculean distribution effort was smooth, swift, and equitable. I want to give a special shout out to our municipal workers from the Health Department, Health and Hospitals, FDNY, HRA, HRO, Emergency Management, Small Business Services, and the Mayor's Office, as well as our many community partners who continue to work to keep COVID-19 under control. All of you stepped up and got stuff done, one vaccination at a time. There is no greater reward than helping others, and I encourage you to keep serving your communities in one way or another. On behalf of all New Yorkers, thank you for helping our city when we needed you the most.
Thank you, Mayor Adams. Next, we will hear from Deputy Mayor Williams-Easom.
Hi everyone, my name is Ann Williams-Isom and I am the Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services. I want to thank each and every one of you for your service and echo the comments that the Mayor made. We are so grateful to you for the contributions that you've made to the city. Let me take a step back for a moment. Do you remember where we were and what life was like before we had a vaccine? Summer, spring, fall of 2020. We were all anxious and many of us were grieving the loss of loved ones. Honestly, I can't even remember the amount of friends and family that I lost. I stopped counting when I got up to 31. My heart still breaks thinking about it. We just kept waiting for the day when a vaccine would be available. And when it did, in December of 2020 and January of 2021, do you know what happened? You answered the call. The Vaccine for All Core was launched, an effort to enlist everyday New Yorkers from communities from around all 5 boroughs to do outreach to fellow New Yorkers. With one goal, get New York City vaccinated as fast as possible. You joined Vaccine for All Core to do your part. As the mayor oftentimes says, you turned pain into purpose. A majority of you come from the communities that were most impacted by COVID. Sometimes we refer to these communities as the TREAT neighborhoods, the Task Force on Racial Inclusion and Equity. But for many of you, you call those neighborhoods home. It's where you live, it's where you work, it's where you went to school, it's where your parents and your siblings live, or the block that you know or lived on or grew up on. We sometimes call you trusted messengers because people know you, they believe in you, and they know that when you say something, they need to listen. And so throughout the last year, you've had tens and thousands of conversations with hesitant friends, neighbors, and community members. You've knocked on thousands of doors, worked in heat waves and on holidays, and ultimately played an important part in the administration of millions of vaccines and vaccination shots. Did I say millions? Millions of vaccine shots. And when more was needed from you, because the virus was adapting, you stepped up once again. You looked on roles like serving as a mental health amplifiers to bring mental health resources to vaccine sites. You canvassed to support Key to New York City, and you distributed at-home test kits to keep our city open. You did anything that was necessary in order to keep us safe. So as you all begin your transition with us winding down the Vaccine for All Core, I want you to know this: your work lives on. Your work mattered, and it's what kept New York City going. Some of you are continuing to serve New York City. A number of you are transitioning into permanent healthcare positions throughout your communities, and some others to city agencies. And others may still be navigating the next steps in their professional journey. So as you do that, remember how grateful we are to you for your commitment to the city we all love, and for your work to keep your fellow New Yorkers safe and healthy. I'm wishing you all the best of luck, and thank you so very much for all that you did for us.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Finally, we will hear from New York City Emergency Management Commissioner Zach Iskell. A warning, the audio is a little bit louder for this video.
Thank you, Mayor Adams and Deputy Mayor Williams-Isom for those great remarks, and hello, Vaccine for All Core. My name is Zach Iskell, Commissioner of New York City Emergency Management. I'm glad to join you today to celebrate the conclusion of a critical program that was created in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. I am talking about you, the over 1,000 members of Vaccine for All Core who supported our residents for the last 15 months. As you know, the city needed to set up many new large programs as part of the emergency response to COVID-19. Many times, the success of these programs came down to our ability to provide significant numbers of additional new staff. This was true for many programs, starting with the first wave of COVID through the rollout of our critical vaccine distribution and outreach efforts. For each of these programs, we needed to quickly increase our workforce with smart and talented people who could be quickly trained and who were driven to help their fellow New Yorkers. The good thing is, the people who live in New York City, they make up one of our greatest resources. The Vaccine for All Corps was started in March 2021 when the COVID vaccine was brand new and New York City's most vulnerable were finally able to receive much needed protection against the terrible effects of the COVID-19 virus. One of the many plans that the New York City Health Department created many years before COVID was the ability to open mass vaccination sites in response to a public health emergency. This plan, sometimes called pods or points of dispensing, needed to be set up quickly and in the case of COVID, also maintained for a long time. These sites, located in some of the hardest hit neighborhoods, required a skilled and motivated workforce to be successful. Initially, the pods were staffed by existing city workers. They volunteered to take on this new role. And when Department of Health realized that these centers would be needed to meet the long-term demand for the vaccine, they asked the Vaccine Command Center for help, and the Vaccine for All Corps was developed by a collaborative group of emergency managers from across the city. By hiring and training a dedicated group of staff, we would be able to quickly meet the shifting needs of our vaccine programs. We needed to make sure that staff was recruited to represent those communities hardest hit by COVID-19. As a resident of these communities, you would not only bring key knowledge and experiences that could be used to help the centers run smoothly, but you could also have the important and sometimes difficult conversations with individuals about the importance of actually getting the vaccine. As the Commissioner of New York City Emergency Management, I am proud to say that this was truly a multi-agency operation. My agency was glad to do what we do best, help coordinate and use all the city's resources to support an emergency operation. You may not realize it, but you worked with many different city agencies. From recruiting, interviews, training, and day-to-day management, there was no one agency who could do it all. As I like to say, New York City runs best when the city works together. This interagency collaboration proves this point. Today, you should all be so proud of your contribution to the over 17.8 million vaccines administered in New York City. You may have started in the pods, but as the city's needs change, you were able to change with them. Emergencies are always fast-moving and unpredictable, and I know that we asked a lot from all of you, from changing roles, learning new skills, and creating and shaping new programs. You successfully protected the people of New York City, and you saved lives. I can tell you that there is no greater reward than helping others, and I encourage you to keep serving your communities in one way or another. Now that you have had experience in emergency response, I wanted to call your attention to some of the great programs at emergency management that you can get involved in if you wish to volunteer, such as our Community Emergency Response Team, CERT, and also the local planning efforts of the Strengthening Communities program. With your experience and knowledge, you should also keep an eye to job openings as well. I know you are an incredible group of people and would love to see you join city service. We have come so far only because of your dedication, and it cannot be said enough. Thank you. Dustin, back to you.
Thank you, Commissioner Eskel, and thank you again to Deputy Mayor Williams-Easom and Mayor Adams for your thoughtful remarks this evening. The messages from Mayor Adams and other senior members of the administration were inspiring and emphasize how much the pandemic impacted everyone and how important this program was to our city. As you heard Commissioner Eskel say, this truly was an interagency program. The effort to stand up and then support the operations of the Vaccine for All Corps was a massive and complex process stretching across multiple city agencies and private partners. I would like to take just a moment to thank all of those partners, especially our city staff, who volunteered to join the Vaccine Command Center and assist the Vaccine for All Corps program. It really was an all hands on deck effort, and we can't thank you enough. I'm not going to mention them all by name, but I do want to call out the Mayor's Office for their leadership, NIAC, the Department of Health, New York City Emergency Management, who were some of the many agencies who committed staff to make this a reality. I also want to note our private partners. Without their valuable support, we would not have been able to manage this program. And thank you to all the members of this Corps. Your individual dedication to the mission of the Vaccine for All Corps made these successes possible. The impact of the Vaccine for All Corps on public access to the COVID-19 vaccine cannot be overstated. Staff worked across the 5 boroughs at nearly 20 vaccination sites and assisted directly in the vaccination of over 800,000 New Yorkers at these locations. In just 2 short months of service at the vaccine sites, your integral work contributed to a 111+% increase in New Yorkers having received at least one dose of the vaccine. As with any emergency program, it constantly changes. Once more of our friends, family, and neighbors began to get vaccinated, we needed to turn our attention to the even harder work of building trust with members of our community who were still unsure. Many of you took up that charge and transitioned your work from the vaccine sites to outreach teams, where you connected with community members by providing accurate information and a compassionate voice. You helped us fight misinformation and build trust in places we needed it most. And by the end of June 2022, when the Vaccine for All Core program ended, nearly 90% of city residents had been vaccinated. That is an over 2,000% increase in vaccinations. That is an enormous impact on your neighborhood, borough, and the city as a whole. That is the impact of New Yorkers helping New Yorkers. And that is the impact of you. Now, I would like to take a moment and zoom in on the specifics of the program and the history we all share. When COVID-19 came to New York City, the spread of the virus was fast and furious. In less than a month, over 30,000 confirmed cases were reported, schools had closed, and the city itself was in lockdown, allowing only essential businesses to remain open. These actions helped curb the spread of the virus. It would be nearly a year after the first recorded cases of the virus in New York City that relief would come via the COVID-19 vaccines. It would be less than a month after the vaccines were authorized for use that the Department of Health would activate its mass vaccination plan, which was heavily focused on delivering vaccines to residents using mass vaccination sites in locations across the city. This mass vaccination strategy detailed in the Department of Health's plan required an amazing level of interagency coordination and a stable staffing structure to not only roll out the vaccine to residents, but to do so in an effective, efficient, and equitable distribution, starting with our most vulnerable members of the community. To accomplish this, the Vaccine for All Corps was announced at the 2021 State of the City address. The VCC staffing branch was then established to accomplish this mission through a jobs program to hire New Yorkers that would support these efforts. The staffing branch oversaw the development and operations of the Vaccine for All Corps, including ensuring a focus on community hiring, good wages, and strong employment practices in the context of emergency response. Let's take a look at some of the parts of the Vaccine for All Corps program that we're all proud of. The Vaccine for All Corps was started as an emergency jobs program. We wanted to hire New Yorkers and use their skills and experience to help navigate the ever-changing pandemic landscape. All of the over 1,400 staff hired were highly skilled and brought with them incredible customer service and operational experience that was not only immeasurable in impact, but integral to the success of the program. The primary goal of the Vaccine for All Corps was to not only hire New Yorkers to help New Yorkers get access to the vaccine, but to also provide staff with the opportunity to earn a strong minimum wage. To do this, we started at a minimum of $25 per hour for our staff. And then to maximize the impact of the Vaccine for All Corps, we made a conscious decision to target recruitment efforts from some of the most impacted neighborhoods across the city. Your ability to be trusted messengers in your community was integral to the success of this program. In March of 2021, the Vaccine for All Corps staff began working at the Department of Health's vaccine sites. Staff engaged New Yorkers in a variety of roles at the vaccine sites, serving in clinical roles such as vaccinators and medical greeters to non-clinical roles such as flow monitors and safety officers. As you can see from the map, members of the Vaccine Corps were stationed at vaccine sites all across the 5 boroughs. These sites were focused on engaging neighborhoods that had suffered the most severe impacts from COVID-19. Vaccine for All Corps members actively supported the Department of Health vaccine site operations in a variety of challenging roles. Every single one of you stationed at the vaccine sites were integral to their operations. No matter your role at the vaccine sites, each and every one of you made a difference in the lives of your friends, family, and neighbors. Overall, the vaccine site staff worked tirelessly at over 15 sites just a few short months after the announcement of the program. From April through June of 2021, over 5 million doses of the vaccine were administered across the city. It was an amazing feat of programmatic operations and ingenuity. Incredibly, at the time of your work at the vaccine sites, vaccination rates increased by a whopping 111%. But this isn't the end of the story. By the end of the program, the Vaccine for All program vaccination rates increased by over 2,000% across the city. And without your hard work at the beginning of this program, we wouldn't be here where we are today. This is a credit to the amazing work of the Department of Health vaccine sites, our city's diverse healthcare system, and the people who staff them. Every day of vaccine site operations, you came and you served your fellow New Yorkers while putting yourselves at risk. Your heroic and selfless efforts to combat the COVID-19 virus had a direct result in changing the trajectory of the pandemic's impacts to New York City, and specifically to your neighborhoods. Not only did you have a direct impact at the vaccine sites helping New Yorkers get vaccinated, but many of you transitioned from the vaccine sites into other roles as part of the Vaccine for All Corps. One member, who later transitioned into the community health worker role, summed up not only the disparities in their Bronx community, but also expressed the drive and commitment that we saw from all of you as members of the Vaccine for All Corps. And we agree. New York is truly stronger when working to uplift each other. We've heard so many stories from our staff regarding individuals who themselves were unsure about the vaccine, or had one or more family members who were unsure, and looked to you and your teams for guidance and information regarding what the vaccine did and how to get the vaccine. These are challenging conversations to have with close friends and family, but even more challenging to have with complete strangers. Your ability to listen, respond, and put people at ease with their decision to vaccinate resulted in saving untold lives across the city and in your neighborhoods. Eventually, as your work of helping normalize and educate New Yorkers on the vaccine for COVID-19, the staff on the ground began engaging with the community. During that time, we are proud to offer a continuation of our work through canvassing and outreach positions that would enable the most New Yorkers the opportunity to get the vaccine. Some of those programs included the mental health amplifiers. With COVID-19, we saw a new and devastating impact on residents across the city and the world. The pandemic waged war against New York for nearly a year before a vaccine was made available and hope could be restored. With so many unknowns at the time of the vaccine introduction, it wasn't a surprise that there was both high demand for the vaccine as well as significant uncertainty about receiving the vaccine. Mental health amplifiers stepped in and filled an important role in helping our communities recover and deal with the impacts of the pandemic at a location that was safe. Mental health is not something that everyone understands. Many believe they can just work through the stress and crisis of everyday life. But adding a pandemic and associated impacts to their lives created a scenario where many people never thought twice about mental health services found themselves needing extra support. I know that in my own personal experience, this was really hard. And for people that came to the vaccine sites, the mental health amplifiers were there when we needed them the most. Emotional well-being checks were a mainstay at the vaccine sites throughout the life of the program, making sure that those receiving the vaccine not only had access to outside resources, but someone there that they could talk to if emotions started to spill over. Many getting the vaccine felt relief at getting another layer of protection against COVID-19. Others felt guilt after having lost a loved one to the virus, and still others feared the impacts of the vaccine on their existing levels of health and unsure of the potential side effects or impacts it may have on them. Mental health amplifiers were there to help guide New Yorkers through their emotions and provide them with the resources that were available across the city after they left the vaccine sites. I do want to note that mental health amplifiers were not only assisting at the Department of Health vaccine sites. Many canvassed the areas around the vaccine sites to proactively talk to community members about their thoughts and feelings about the vaccine. Using the tools that they learned when training in psychological first aid, many mental health amplifiers were able to use their non-clinical skills to refer those feeling emotional distress. They work to help individuals by acknowledging their feelings and provide an environment that would allow them to feel safe in seeking support. The impact of the mental health amplifiers is crystal clear. Engaging over 140,000 New Yorkers across the city and applying the tools and strategies from psychological first aid, mental health amplifiers were a vital component of the Vaccine for All Core. The Department of Health found that approximately 14% of all the interactions that the mental health amplifiers had with New Yorkers resulted in additional resources being accessed by those New Yorkers. That is a lot of New Yorkers. Mental health amplifiers provided that helping hand and a warm smile to those they served every day. They had such an immediate impact that 90% of those polled about these services indicated they had less stress after talking to a mental health amplifier. And nearly everyone indicated that the services provided by the mental health amplifiers was really, really helpful. Mental health amplifiers were a model for frontline mental health services in times of crisis. Their work has reshaped how individuals, communities, and government responds to various emergency events. And while a relatively small component of the Vaccine for All Core program, mental health amplifiers had an outside impact on our recovery, and you should all be proud of the work you accomplished. But you didn't see any of the individuals as another nameless individual off the street. To you, it was about those conversations with James on the sidewalk outside the vaccine site, who was nervous about getting the vaccine, or Tanya waiting in line at the bodega, who just lost a family member to COVID-19. You made a difference in their lives with your compassion, understanding, and ability to guide them to the resources they need. Also in May, the Department of Health community outreach team began operations. And they were one of the first outreach programs established as part of the Vaccine for All Core. These teams were based out of the Department of Health vaccine sites. Through conversations with people in the neighborhood surrounding the vaccine sites, valuable vaccine information was communicated, helping to ease fears about the vaccine. The COT team members deployed to locations across the 5 boroughs to disseminate the COVID-19 vaccination literature to residents in those neighborhoods near the vaccine location. Beyond saving lives through their outreach efforts, the COT teams also distributed massive amounts of PPE, or personal protective equipment, and over 50,000 pieces of literature to the communities immediately surrounding the vaccine sites. And again, I'm floored with the amount of vaccine literature that the COT teams were able to put in the hands of New Yorkers and so early into the program. These teams engaged over 20,000 individuals directly. Let me repeat that, 20,000 individuals. Wow. The COT teams were also integral to the operations of new programs like the Key to NYC program, which provided significant outreach to businesses as they gradually reopened. COT teams alone were able to reach approximately 100 businesses a week, helping make sure that businesses and patrons had the information they needed to stay safe was a huge part of the city reopening plan and led to a smoother and more successful end to lockdown policies across the city. An often overlooked component of all the outreach programs, but exemplified in the COT team outreach, was their engagement with immigrant communities and emphasizing that immigration status did not matter when entering a vaccine site to get vaccinated. In addition to the work providing outreach to small businesses through their communities, COT team members also distributed vaccine and Key to NYC literature in creative ways, such as along their commute to their work locations. This is the type of ingenuity that helped make the Vaccine for All Core staff so highly valued amongst all of the programs across the city. Also in May, staff began supporting the T2, or Test and Trace Canvassing program. The T2 Vaccine for All Core program was specifically born out of a need to track the spread of the virus, help individuals isolate and protect their communities, and to provide unheard of levels of outreach and distribution of literature and PPE across New York. Another incredible undertaking that required the best of New York to accomplish. And the T2 team engaged individuals at street fairs, schools, homeless shelters, and by phone. They distributed 500,000 plus test kits to New Yorkers and worked on the Key to New York City campaign with over 75,000 successful conversations with businesses across over 100 zip codes. Canvassers were responsible for engaging New Yorkers and their communities to help them find vaccine sites near them and assisting with answering vaccine-related questions. Canvassing teams also set up tables at community events across the city to engage New Yorkers with PPE distribution and literature. and the hard work of being out on the street day in, day out to provide your fellow New Yorkers with the knowledge they needed to help make a decision regarding vaccination speaks for itself. Tens of thousands of appointments and commitments were secured, often in some of the communities with the least amount of trust in the vaccine. And when not in the field, the T2 team did not rest to provide New Yorkers the information they needed. Over 500,000 calls were made citywide to continue the great work when weather conditions did not allow to have those conversations face to face. And one way that they went above and beyond was their engagement at shelter facilities across the city. Their partnership with Department of Homeless Services helped some of the most vulnerable members of our communities make a potentially life-saving decision to get vaccinated. And by visiting shelters multiple times, they were able to build trust with the residents and secure an additional 2,700 plus vaccine commitments on top of the vaccinations. One T2 canvasser shared with us, "We got along very well with the clients at both shelters, probably because they were all women's shelters and I had already built a rapport with the ladies at each location. Almost all were vaccinated or interested in getting vaccinated." Another canvasser shared with us that they love the job because I get to speak with people and help them with our information. Many people that are hesitant are already making plans to get vaccinated with their clinic. They're accepting the vaccine, but those that are refusing, I always tell them to keep using their protections to stay safe from the virus because this is still going on and we don't know if it will stop or when to take precautions. In June, we had VCC, the Vaccine for All core staff, begin supporting Department of Health's neighborhood response team. They also began supporting the congregate settings investigation and response unit. Vaccine for All core supported these two teams, and these two teams were designed for very specific outreach roles. The neighborhood response teams specialized engagement through virtual outreach. And for example, the CSIRU program specialized in working in congregate care facilities, such as nursing homes, supportive housing facilities, etc., to build vaccine confidence among the residents and staff. Eventually, the city began rolling out incentives to help those who were unsure about the vaccine. The NRT staff would promote in-house services and engage with mental health amplifiers as necessary to ensure that those who just received the vaccine had access to any and all services available. The NRT staff also engaged community members and continued with the Vaccine for All core outreach priorities by disseminating accurate information about COVID-19 and the vaccine, helped local residents gain access to the vaccine, and engaged the community with a smile and compassion that proved effective across all outreach platforms. One of the most critical roles of the NRT staff was to communicate the needs and concerns voiced by community partners to the managers and administration officials. There's no better voice than community leaders in how to engage their neighborhoods, and the neighborhood response teams were a critical piece of this feedback loop. The small but mighty CSIRU team focused their efforts at the support of housing facilities, nursing homes, and other residential congregate settings as needed to educate and motivate individuals to receive the vaccine. The CSIRU staff utilized one-on-one education using plain language, dissemination of education materials, coordination of educational webinars, and other outreach activities to build confidence in the vaccine. And this staff weren't just engaging with the residents of these congregate settings. They were also engaging the staff at these facilities who come from diverse background and communities across the city. The CSIRU staff worked directly with the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene to provide greater access to the vaccine and accurate information. This partnership was vital to adjusting outreach strategies on the fly when interacting with this population. Starting in mid-August, we brought in 3 more programs under the Vaccine for All core banner. One of those was the vaccine education program with the New York City Emergency Management. And I know that like Vaccine for All core staff from all other programs, the VaxEd team was able to quickly and nimbly respond to changing circumstances on the ground and provide valuable information to residents across the city. The VaxEd team provided New York City Emergency Management with an incredible amount of experience and skills from day one. The VaxEd team engaged individuals across the city in multiple ways to develop a rapport with community members and elected officials. They would tailor their engagement to not only talk about vaccine access and importance, but the importance of planning and preparing for other types of emergencies that may happen in their day-to-day lives. The VaxEd team was busy throughout their tenure at New York City Emergency Management. They participated in over 300 events in conjunction with community leaders and elected officials to bring the message of vaccines and preparedness for any event. Of those 300 plus events, over 100 of them were located in Queens, 70 in Manhattan, and over 60 in Brooklyn. The outreach coordinators brought tremendous energy with them every day to work and would often mention how much fun they had in the community. Their engagement consisted of tens of thousands of individual New Yorkers across the city at these various community events, thousands of phone calls, and even working with New York City's resident superhero, Ready Girl, to engage children across the city. As we have mentioned with other Vaccine for All core programs, the VaxEd team engaged communities where English was a second language by preparing and distributing literature in over a dozen languages to keep all New Yorkers safe during emergencies. One of the things that stood out the most and is highlighted here is the impact that the VaxEd team had on those they served through their presentations across the city. Words of praise for the professionalism, knowledge, and care with how they engaged a multitude of communities, both non-English speaking as well as the patience they had when engaging members who needed just a little more of a helping hand. The VaxEd team throughout their tenure was a shining example of the effort, experience, and professionalism that has come to describe each and every program that was part of the Vaccine for All Corps. Also in August, the Public Engagement Unit Tabling and Outreach Program begins. The Public Engagement Unit, or PEU, uses innovative methods of proactive outreach to reach New Yorkers and connect them with key city services and critical resources. Never more needed than at the height of the pandemic, PEU began including COVID-19 vaccines, healthcare, and other pandemic recovery resources to their already considerable portfolio of public information campaigns across the city. PEU seamlessly incorporated their Vaccine for All core staff into their day-to-day operations, providing training and guiding staff through multiple avenues of outreach methods to reach as many New Yorkers as possible about the resources available to mitigate all aspects of the COVID-19 impact on our communities. The PEU teams were able to engage an incredible number of people through all of their outreach programs. Canvassing, event tabling, phone banking, texting, and door knocking were just some of the ways that they were able to reach their fellow New Yorkers and give them the tools, knowledge, and confidence to go and get vaccinated. It is important to note, however, that the PEU teams did not just encourage and educate those who were unsure to get vaccinated. They also actively scheduled appointments for New Yorkers to get vaccinated, provided information on booster schedules, and encouraged those they spoke with to engage with family and friends to get vaccinated as well. It was an exponential impact we can never truly capture, but it was integral to the success of the vaccination program. But PEU teams didn't stop there. Along with providing detailed information regarding the vaccine and vaccine boosters, they also provided New Yorkers with important information regarding vaccine site accessibility and vaccine incentives. They also joined other outreach programs who participated in the Key to NYC outreach efforts. Small businesses are the lifeblood of communities across the city, and PEU engaged them to provide them with the knowledge and expertise they needed to effectively and efficiently reopen. Proactive engagement is one of the many strategies that PEU employs to be effective in their work, and in partnership with City Hall, PEU brought the mayor to Staten Island. There, they spoke with residents across the borough to help them understand not only why the vaccine is important, but also to help them schedule appointments and access other pandemic-related programming. It was the flexibility and enthusiasm that all of you brought to your roles at the Vaccine for All Corps that helped make all of the successes that we've discussed this afternoon possible. As mentioned before, many staff transitioned out of the vaccine sites and into canvassing roles within the Vaccine for All Corps program structure, and every single one of you brought flexibility, dedication, and ingenuity to the job. But any massive effort such as the Vaccine for All Corps will have a few speed bumps along the way. As this core member mentioned, there were challenges, especially when transitioning to a new role. But you, as Vaccine for All Core members, found a way not only to rise up to meet these challenges, but also overcome them and bring your expertise to bear, helping guide and build the processes of the program from within. To say that is impressive is an understatement. The Community Health Worker Training and Apprenticeship Program also started in August of 2021. Often from the communities they serve, the CHWs are essential in the deployment of targeted approaches at the community level. And the CHWs are highly skilled and foster relationships with local community-based organizations. This highly selective program provided a 10-week intensive experience, which included embedding Vaccine for All Core staff into roles at local community-based organizations. This program began with a 1-week orientation and introduction, facilitated by DOHMH staff, and then transitioned into virtual classroom training with a brand new customized curriculum supported by 5 different CUNY schools. After the virtual classroom training, community health workers began putting their training into practice by working on site with one of 40 community-based organizations directly with community members, beginning the work of building trusted community relationships. Community health workers supported a wide range of education and engagement efforts throughout this program, and some individuals from the Vaccine for All Core are still with these organizations today in similar, though non-Vaccine for All Core roles. The ability of community health workers and that workforce to build strong bonds in the communities they worked and host vaccine events in hard-to-reach neighborhoods was amazing. We've highlighted a lot of the work that the CHW program did, but I want to focus on a specific piece of their work. There are a lot of things that can impact your health that are not medical, such as whether you can access healthy food or stable housing. The CHW team listened to community members, asked them about these types of social needs and the social determinants of health screening, and referred many to local services. As a result, they were able to help many more New Yorkers not just get vaccinated, but also lead healthier lives by accessing critical services in their communities. One of our CHW staff shared a young mother of 2 children came into the clinic to get her children, who were 7 and 9 years, vaccinated for school against the COVID-19 infection. She appeared a bit worried and concerned. The children were entered into the system, and the mom was assisted in completing the social determinant health screening tool questionnaire. There, the mom identified several areas of need for the family and herself. She expressed surprise that help would be available to her and that any assistance she needed to help in the application process would be forthcoming. Using the Now POW resources, we were able to provide her with support services within her neighborhood. 21 days later, she returned to the clinic for her children to receive their second dose and was eager to express her thanks and told us that she was able to receive assistance to apply for the SNAP benefits and was on a waiting list to attend free GED classes at a local CBO. She was also able to access other household products and help from a nearby church that provided for needy children and infants. The guidance and help that she was able to receive from those at the clinic, which is walking distance from her home, were able to assist in alleviating some of the stressors that she was experiencing as a mother during a difficult time. And lastly, in June of 2022, sadly, the Vaccine for All Core program came to a close. But I want to note that along with the stories of making a daily impact in the lives of those New Yorkers you served as a member of the Vaccine for All Core, many of you told us of the bonds of friendship that you made with your fellow Core members. And all of you shared a deep sense of service, and you answered that call when you applied to join the Vaccine for All Core. You took a chance on a program that had never been done before, and you showed up every day and brought that mindset to keeping your fellow New Yorkers safer with every shot. No words can ever thank you enough for your courage, dedication, and compassion, which led you to join the Vaccine for All Core. But as you can see from the highlights this evening, every single one of you deserve each bit of praise for the work you did in keeping New York safe, helping the city reopen and recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. Your work was more important than you may think, and we are proud to have had you as part of the Vaccine for All Corps. Thank you, and stay safe and healthy. Thank you all for attending. That is the conclusion of our program.